The Midnight Rules Relief Act addresses an inefficiency in the government and allows Congress to retain its current authority, overseeing administrative rulemaking without bogging down the legislative branch when we have so much work to get done. The Midnight Rules Relief Act empowers Congress to review and potentially disapprove several regulations that federal agencies may attempt to implement in the last days of an administration by allowing Congress to disapprove multiple rules through one joint resolution, if those rules were issued during the last 60 legislative days, the midnight hours of a president's term. This would allow Congress to quickly regain control and oversee agency rulemaking during a time when there is consistently a huge increase in executive overreach.
As the gentlelady pointed out, this rule would bring H.R. 77, the Midnight Rules Relief Act, to the floor for debate and consideration. The underlying bill is a bad bill. And it was a bad bill back when we considered it in December, and it is still a bad bill now. This is a bad bill that's all about Republicans gutting protections that ensure safety, health, and well-being of each and every American. It is a blatant power grab that was ripped right out of the pages of Project 2025. Why would Republicans want the ability to roll back protections en masse with very little debate in a way that could threaten the lives and livelihoods of regular people? Why would they want to do that? I'll tell you why, Mr. Speaker. The answer is simple. It's so they can deliver big for their billionaire donors and special interest friends. It's so that they can make it easier for greedy corporations and Wall Street CEOs to make a few extra bucks while they screw the rest of us. Billionaires don't want workplace protections. They don't want rules that keep them from dumping toxic chemicals into our food, water, or air. And they don't want restrictions on their corporate greed. Why would they? That digs into their bottom line, and Republicans are happy to give the billionaires exactly what they want. We've seen it in every policy coming out of the Trump White House. We've seen it in almost every bill that this majority brings to the floor. They don't want to talk about it here on the floor, but Mr. Speaker, Democrats are going to talk about it, and we're going to expose it. And we are going to highlight all the ways they are trying to steal from the American people so they can give more handouts to those at the top. The American people deserve to know the truth about what's really happening here. And I'm going to use my time on the floor today to continue to expose it all on behalf of House Democrats.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And all I can say is, wow. There's a lot going on the other side, talking about this being a bad bill. This is a bill that will attempt to recover the Congress's ability and authority to overrule rules written that are done in the last few days of a president's term. We should have the ability. One of the things that we hear about when we are talking to our constituents is overregulation. Congress, the elected representatives, need to be able to deal with the overregulation and the rules, particularly in those last 60 days during an administration while they are on their way out the door, and see it as a last-ditch effort. I see this as making sure that we are responding to our constituents. I reserve.
Gentlelady reserves. Gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I want to inform the gentlelady of a fact I hope that she knows, and that is the CRAs are already the law. We already have this authority to go after regulations that this body doesn't like. And multiple CRAs have been introduced by Republicans in this Congress. And to the best of my knowledge, not a single committee has held a hearing or a markup on any of them. Not one. Not a single one has been brought to the floor for a vote or debate. What we object to is you bringing en masse all these different things that you don't like, limiting debate so that we can't each talk about them individually, and just shoving them down the throats of the American people. Whatever happened to single issue bills that you all said you wanted? This doesn't even require you bringing CRAs to the floor that are under the jurisdiction of one committee. It could be multiple committees. So, I mean, that you say you need this emergency authority. You have the authority what you don't want to do is you don't want to go through the debate. You don't want the American people to know what you're doing. You don't want them to know that you are going after things that ensure their safety and their well-being. So I think that's shameful. But, Mr. Speaker, I just say one thing here. I get why Republicans, are so anxious to get more tax breaks for billionaires. I now get it. Yeah, and I'll urge the American people to follow the money. Follow the money, and you will understand why politicians are beholden to billionaires, why they want to do things like what we're talking about here today on the floor. And to anyone watching this debate who actually thinks that Elon Musk cares about them, all I can say is that it takes an extraordinary amount of self-delusion to believe that billionaires like Elon Musk are fighting for working-class people. I don't even blame Elon. He's just doing what greedy billionaires do. Who I do blame is the Republicans here in the Congress who are letting him add to his billions by stealing from the American people. Just this week, Trump and Elon started to dismantle the CFPB. Do you know what CFPB stands for, Mr. Speaker? The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They messed up now because they're now showing their hand. It was never about waste, fraud, or abuse. It's about enriching themselves. This is not just some random government agency that has no purpose. This is an agency designed to protect American consumers from unfair, deceptive, and abusive corporate practices. Why would they want to do that? Why would Elon want to gut the CFPB? Well, I did my homework, and I found out that Musk recently announced a partnership with Visa to enable payments on his social media platform X. That means it would be subject to, you guessed it, CFPB oversight. And once Elon realized that, well, he wasted no time in declaring, in his own words, the CFPB would soon, quote, rest in peace. As if on cue, Trump listened to his boss, and he froze the CFPB's critical work. Nearly 2,000 employees ordered to stay home and sit on their hands. Mr. Speaker, the CFPB has been on the front lines of unrigging our economy, handling over 5 million consumer complaints, refunding $20 billion to the American people, and imposing over $4 billion in penalties on Wall Street for breaking the law. So this is not about waste or fraud or abuse. Every dollar spent on the CFPB returns twice as much to the American people. So then what is it about, Mr. Speaker? What is it about? It's about greed. It's about billionaire greed. They're shutting down the agency that stops billionaires from ripping people off. It's that simple. It's that simple. And beyond that, Republicans will use this bill, the so-called Midnight Rules bill, to make it easier for banks to charge predatory fees that will adversely impact the people we represent. Democrats support the CFPB, which protects people from these predatory big bank fees. Republicans, the big banks write their damn checks. CFPB passed rules that stop banks from charging predatory overdraft fees, passed rules that reduced expensive credit card fees, passed rules to limit medical debt from credit card reports. Plain and simple, Mr. Speaker, the CFPB stands up to corporate greed, and that's exactly why. It's exactly why Republicans who are beholden to billionaires like Elon Musk want to freeze it, want to gut it, and ultimately destroy it. No one wants to talk about that on the other side of the aisle. But I must remind my colleagues, the people of this country elected us to represent them, not to give billionaires and corporate profiteers free rein to rob working families blind. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to insert into the record an article from Reuters entitled, Feds Powell, No Agency Other Than CFPB Tasked with Consumer Protection Enforcement.
Without objection.
I reserve.
Gentleman reserves. Members are reminded to address their remarks to the chair.